headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Well then, what did you make of this report?
Well, the report actually is going to be published in full on the 8th of March, and it's going to run to some 250 pages. And I know that because today I saw the author of that report, Sir Michael Barber, contribute to a Zoom conversation, which also had Kit Malthouse, the policing minister, a police and crime commissioner from Surrey, was also a part of it. And if you knew where to find it, you could watch. And what Sir Michael Barber had to say was very interesting at points, but essentially towards the end of it, he boiled down to the two major problems that he felt policing faces at the moment. And that is one of leadership and modernisation. Now, I would agree with him on both of those fundamental fronts, but there is so much more about policing that really needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency.
Peter, can I just touch on the modernisation? I think one of the points he makes is that the disproportionate amount of crime that is effectively fraud, internet, cyber crime, he's saying that the police force is not equipped to deal with that, which is why he makes this point that it's, if you like, I think he used the old video terminology. It's a Betamax police force trying to fight blockchain technology. I didn't even understand what blockchain technology is, but I get the point. I mean, is that a fair criticism?
Oh, without a doubt. Fraud, online fraud and cybercrime now amounts for some 40% of all recorded crime, which is a staggering percentage. And unfortunately, as has been the case for many decades, when it comes to matters of IT, the police are only ever playing catch up. And sadly, many people from the world of IT have made themselves tidy sums of money by sitting in front of various police services and selling them bits of IT, which is fundamentally not fit for purpose. And perhaps we shouldn't be surprised at that, because if you join as a police officer and you climb the ranks, where is your expertise in being able to sort the wheat from the chaff, those who tell the truth and others who gloss things up just so they can get a few quid in their grubby pockets?
The point that struck me and really resonated with me is, and it goes to my very simplistic line, which I appreciate won't be universally loved, is that I don't want you to be a police service. I want you to be a police force, which you used to be, of course. And he wrote quite tellingly, too often our police are effectively as social services, dealing more with mental health and family breakdowns than crime fighting or crime prevention. And he's arguing, basically, you can't do your job properly. You can't have the focus that you need to do that. How did this change come about? And how do we reverse it, if you agree with him and think that's a good idea to reverse it?
What was very interesting this afternoon was that there was no mention made of the policies and the priorities that have been forced upon our police services in recent years by politicians. Conveniently enough, that didn't get a mention. But Sir Michael Barber is right, and this did get airtime today, when they talk about missing persons inquiries, family breakdown and mental health issues, all of which are now landed at the police's door, because of course the police are our first responders.
But shouldn't missing persons, I would have thought missing persons should land at your door. Sorry to interrupt on that point, but I would have thought that's the first place to go, is the police.
Not at all. And yes, I agree that fundamentally it should be, but so often these missing person cases will be young people who are in care being reported as being missing from their care homes. And invariably, when the police take that task on board, they find these young people, they return them to the care homes. But I think you will find that Sir Michael Barber's report, when it is published, will perhaps be asking for more emphasis to be placed on the care providers, in that those young people are under their care. Should they go missing, then what are those services doing to find them? Are they dialing 999 too quickly, too soon, without having done any work of their own?
I mean, look, we could go on for hours like this, but one of the things that often frustrates me is that you are called out into towns where there's Friday night syndrome, Saturday night syndrome, loads of drunks out there. Often, I'm not even talking about the violence, which I think your officers, it's just shocking they have to put up with that, the officers and the force, just because of alcohol. But they are dragged out for the street scenes, the antisocial behaviour, often the rows, the shouting, fuelled by alcohol. I don't know how many police officers that takes off the street whilst the real criminals are getting on with the burglaries in the homes or elsewhere. But I actually wonder if there's a better way to deal with that.
I think disorder on the streets, antisocial behaviour, drunkenness, assaults, whatever you may refer to on a Friday or a Saturday night, for example, is very much a core policing role. And they should be out there on the streets. Of course, they work in conjunction with elements of the nighttime economy, like the security guards that stand on doors and check people for ID and perhaps give them a search and all that kind of stuff. And they need to work very closely with those kind of partners. They need to develop coherent, working, respectful, mutually beneficial partnerships. But at the end of the day, the protection of life and property and the prevention of crime are the core fundamental roles of the police. And I reckon if I stop people in the street and said to them, what do you want your police to do? They will say, prevent crime and arrest bad.
Well, I agree with you. I suppose the point I'm making is too often I see a couple of officers spending over an hour trying to calm a situation down, which is fueled by this alcohol, when I suppose other people might just take the view that, okay, can we create a street force, something different to deal with those regular people abusing our Thursday and Friday nights, to relieve the pressure on you guys. But Peter, rather than dwell on that subject, let me read you a question that's come in, if I may. I didn't know you would be on question time, but here comes one for you from Sir Mac. As a layman, is the problem that as officers rise in the ranks, and this really goes, I think, to leadership, as they rise in the ranks, they become self-serving and political. Should we not be promoting the thief takers, the catchers, and not persons based on degrees? I think there's two questions in that.
And I'm smiling at that wonderful question because I suspect your listener may have heard me in the past, or maybe not, because I have often spoken about those who climb the greasy pole of promotion, perhaps not being the best police officers and not even the best leaders, but they're very good at the promotion process. You have to climb 10 ranks to end up as the commissioner, for example. So you're well versed in climbing that.
Well, you have to be politically correct. You know how to play the politics that's going on, I imagine. I don't think it's that different from any other careers these days.
And you've got to say the right things to the selection panels that you are sat in front of. The sort of thing that I would have been manifestly pretty useless at. In terms of are the best thief takers, I love that expression. It's been around for decades. So are the best thief takers, so those police officers that can find a burglar, a robber, a car thief, and they do it with wonderful regularity, are they the ones that should be promoted? Well, some of them quite simply don't want to be, because they don't want to be taken off the front line, and they are not always the best leaders. There needs to be some kind of ground found here whereby the best people get promoted.
Here. You can't really, Peter. You can't really argue with that. And by the way, I've seen it all too often. Someone's brilliant at a job, and then you ruin it all by promoting them, and lose someone who's brilliant in a job and put them where skills they're not necessarily so good at. It's a lose-lose situation.
Good talk. Hot talk.
Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.